What's up, everybody? Welcome back. You thought recruiting was over. Ha ha ha. We laugh at you. It never ends. I'm Aslan, Michael Langston, recruiting analyst for WarChant.com. Joining me for our weekly chat. It was team related last week. Now we're focusing back on recruiting because Michael's been super busy, man. Thanks for taking some time out. How are you, Michael?
You got it, man. I'm glad to be home. I'm glad to be home.
Yeah,
I'm glad to be home. I didn't spend much time here the last 3 weeks, but it's been a lot of fun. Saw a lot of talent in Lakeland and Miami and FSU Junior Day. So it's been a lot of fun cranking it back up again for another year.
right on. All right, let's start, I guess, from let's go as back far in the past and then work our way up to the current present term right now. And I guess you were at Miami before
Right.
everything went happen here in Lakeland and the Junior Day. The Miami camp, what camp was that, and what sort of prospects were out there that you were able to see?
Well, there's a lot of prospects out there. The main one I think everyone kind of circled was running back Jaylen Mccluster. Got to see him. Saw some talented guys like the defensive end Elijah Roberts from Miami Norland. Saw offensive lineman Isaiah Walker, who's going to be visiting FSU this weekend. Grew up an FSU fan, so saw a bunch of those guys. I think those are some of the main ones off the top of my head. We have all kinds of content as far as rumor mill and everything that we've covered as far as all the the different prospects. But I think big news with that one was with Jaylen Mccluster coming over for spring game coming up. That's going to be a big visit for FSU coming up. Big ties with Dante Pimpleton. His dad actually grew up with him, so he actually knows him pretty well because they're from Louisville. So I think certainly they're going to have a chance to make a big splash there.
Dante Pimpleton, just like you talk about, like instant offense, like a player comes into a basketball game or whatever, like instant recruiting impact. It seems like, especially when it comes to South Florida. How would you sort of characterize, I guess, this crop of talent that's in South Florida right now that'll be emerging for the class of 2020?
Well, I think there's more depth than there was previous year. I think there's a lot of depth there. Obviously, at running back, there's some very talented guys and skilled guys as usual. South Florida is going to be really good. Offensive linemen, they do pretty well in that area. We've seen that every year. Last year, Dante Lucas and several others that you can really jump into there and get in the mix with those guys. I think I think really the only position they don't do really good at is quarterback. Wasn't much there as far as quarterback. Running backs, receivers, receivers, they have Marcus Rosemy, who we talked to, who's FSU in his top five. He's from St. Thomas Aquinas. You're always going to have top skill guys there, so I think that's an area. You have David Kelly, who's very good in that area. Obviously, Telly Lockett's very good in that area. He's always been good. And then we know Ron Dugans has recruited that area when he was at Miami, so he's very good in that area too. So yeah, they got a lot of guys that are going to be able to work in that area that are going to make a big impact. And we're already seeing. You'll see it's kind of the theme of the night is you'll hear me talk about. There's some the buzz that seems to be recreating about FSU going into the season because of the changes in the three coaching changes. I think those have really had a significant impact on guys. They even had like 4 or 5, maybe up to 6 offensive linemen that are top, Rivals 250, Rivals 100 kids that had called me and said, how do I get in touch with Coach Clements? Because FSU is a school I'm going to be interested in. So Isaiah Walker was one of those guys that they called me and reached out to me. So I think it tells you about the excitement that's building again. There's some momentum there. Now they have to show it on the field. And if they do that, they're certainly going to be making some big waves in the 2020 class.
That's no small feat, though, right, Michael? For them to be able to turn things around like this without even like coaching a game. I mean, the last game that everybody saw obviously was not a good one, but the fact that they're able to turn this, the sort of perspective and to create this positive momentum, I guess it really speaks to the inroads they've built down there and the additions that Taggart has made to the staff.
I think it speaks to that, but I also think it speaks to the kids that kids want this program to win. It's like you got to give them. They want a reason to go see FSU, go visit FSU, even eventually commit or enroll at FSU. They want FSU to be good. It's kind of the message I've been sending to people for a while that if they win on the field, recruiting is going to soar and take off. That's what kids need to see. And so this is kind of another example of that where kids are wanting to see it on the field, but they're intrigued by FSU. it also shows that these kids are also doing a lot of their homework and checking on these guys. The jobs that Ron Dugans did when he was at Miami is a job, his ability as far as how to relate to kids, how to develop kids. Same thing with Randy Clements. A lot of these offensive linemen have looked at probably his history, what he does with linemen. And then in Kendall Brown's resume speaks for itself, where kids see like, man, that's an exciting offense. I can't wait to go watch a practice and see what they're like. I mean, we're going to see that this weekend. I mean, they host a big recruiting weekend. It's like 6 or 7 guys coming in. One's a 5-star. We already talked about Isaiah Walker. He's a 4-star offensive tackle. So it tells you about the excitement that's building. It's not there yet, but it's getting there, and the momentum is, certainly there's a buzz about it. As we'll say all day, all night long on this, is the kid's going to see them win on the field and the product on the field, and that starts against Boise State. And if they can do that, I think FSU is going to get some of the guys that they're open for as far as in this class that are elite guys. So I think that's really the key, is winning on the field.
Well, let's pause real quick for a question, Michael, before we get to how Lakeland was. It comes from FSU 91. You want to guess what the question is going to be in relation to? Let me go.
Say roster.
Yeah, there you go. FSU 91 from Montana, out of Missoula, asks, or maybe he's up there in Whitefish these days. I don't know. He's up there in northwest Montana. We've got 71 guys on the roster who are eligible to come back in 2020, so that gives us 14 open slots for this class. Obviously, some guys will leave early for the NFL. That could get us up to about 18 slots. There's going to be transfers, all sorts of movements and attrition. So, Michael, do you see us, Florida State, being able to sign a full class of 25 guys for 2020?
That's a good question, 91. I actually will leave the roster stuff to you, the numbers, because I'm not big at crunching numbers.
Yeah, seriously, that's you.
I got to leave that to the team guys, but I haven't heard an exact number on how many they're going to take. I've heard in the 20 areas what I've heard, but I have no idea. I never question how they're going to fit these things in. A lot of last year, everyone's questioning, how's it going to happen? It's like, I don't get into that stuff, but I think that's kind of the number. It was brought to me around 20. But, whether they get in and what happens, he even mentioned in his question, you have attrition, you have guys that leave, you have guys that, some guys will be put on scholarship. You don't know who's transferring, who isn't transferring. There's so many dynamics that go on with that stuff. So that's almost impossible for me to answer. But I do know that's the number that I've heard.
All right, let's take a question from YouTube before we move on to how things look at the rival camps at Lakeland. Said Jackson asks you, Michael, basically, will Coach Taggart be focusing more on recruiting the state of Florida? I'm still seeing a lot of Georgia kids on the recruiting board. And also, if you could maybe talk about the perceived lack of elite edge rushers that are currently being recruited by Florida State.
Well, I mean, as I mentioned this in the final backstories on to kind of put a closure on the 2019 class, this staff wants to focus. I was told like 90% of this class will be from Florida, the state of Florida, and the state of Georgia. So you're going to see them hit Georgia hard. They have a lot of great recruiters that have connections to Georgia, so they're going to hit that hard. They're going to hit Florida hard. Florida's their top priority. You look at the majority of their guys that they're either leaning for or heavily involved with, they're from the state of Florida. So they have a lot of guys in Florida. Yes, there'll be some sprinkled in with Georgia, but for the most part, I think you'll see a lot of these guys from the state of Florida. So I think it'll have a state of Florida feel when you look at this class.
All right, man. So you were down in Miami a few weeks ago, and then this past weekend you were in Tallahassee, busting your tail, covering Junior Day, but you were also dabbling between that and Lakeland. Look at Lakeland, man. They're on the map now. 863, stand up, everybody, hosting big-time camp. How did that camp stack up to the Miami camp, and what were your thoughts, I guess, big picture when you're out there at that one?
Well, I think the Lakeland one, you had more depth at every position. At each position, except for maybe quarterback. But there was still a little more talent. But the talent in general with FSU targets was very good as far as across the board. When I looked at everything, wide receivers, you had some very good guys out there. Michael Redding, Marcus Clark, both of them have FSU offers. We did an article on Redding. Grew up a big FSU fan. His two cousins actually played at FSU. Big physical guy. He's very strong. Got good wheels, good speed. He can really change the game with his vertical threat. FSU loves him. I think FSU sits in a pretty good spot there. Marcus Clark is a guy that they like a lot, but they have to wait and see just to see where he rolls. And as far as the board, I don't know where he sits as far as that goes. offensive lineman, just like in the Miami camp, which I think was the best part of the thing was the offensive line. That was a lot of talent. Marcus Tate, 2021 guy. We mentioned Isaiah Walker and several other guys, but very talented. But the offensive lineman, the guy that caught my attention is Jalen Rivers from Oakley over there in Jacksonville, Florida. He's a guy that FSU's in his top 5. Him and his teammate, defensive end Chance Williams, who's also there. Chance came out with the MVP at defensive end, and then Jalen had the offensive line MVP. They're going to probably end up at the same school. So that's a big thing. Chance's family also has ties to FSU. Both of these guys are going to visit for the spring game. I think that's a big visit where we'll be able to really tell where FSU's at. They're both close to Odell. We did a piece on them. I think Ira put up this morning. And I would say Florida probably leads right now just because that's the place they visited. But I think FSU is going to be a major factor there. I think both guys have ties to FSU as far as what they like, their closeness with Odell, and so those are some guys to watch. Trying to think top of my head, other guys there, linebackers, very very talented group of linebackers. FSU commit Stephen Dix won the MVP. He was very good.
Yeah, that kid looks really good. I mean, just in terms of like aesthetics, not to go down that road, but in terms of like looking apart, good grief.
Yeah. He was much more flexible and explosive in coverage than I thought he would be. Rob Cassidy kind of said the same thing when he saw him. I mean, you can expect a big bump from him. I think he's going to definitely be a 4-star, might even be a Roberts 250 kid. Jaylen Mccluster, who I think is an FSU lean, he's visiting for the spring game. I'll have him on commit watch. I've already mentioned that on the board. Both of those guys were sensational. I think they had very good days. They impressed me a lot. They jumped out at me. Already mentioned Chance Williams. I think he was the best overall prospect there. I mean, very good edge rusher. Reminds me a lot of Chris Vogel from a year ago. Just got great leverage. Hard to block inside or outside. Is a big problem. Josh Griffiths was also there. Yeah, the funny thing about Josh that I thought was interesting is, everyone's listing him as defensive end. I think he'd be more better just not Mike linebacker, but an outside linebacker or a buck-like guy. Because pass rushing, at times when he goes against elite guys, he kind of struggles in the areas because he's not as explosive. But, man, you get him coming off the edge, he's sensational. He's very good in coverage. He drops back really well. We saw that a couple times with his footwork and different things at this camp. So he impressed me a lot. Athlete Avante Williams, he's committed to Oregon. He's a Rivals 100 kid. He's a guy that's really tight with tackles, so watch that name. That's a guy to keep your eye on. Defensive back, he was very good. Kendall Dennis, a cornerback FSU offered a few weeks ago, very good performance. He did really well. He's the teammate of Brendan Gant, so already told me that FSU leads there early. So, there's some good buzz that came out of this event. Both at the offense line. Zane Herring was there. We all know that he's looks good for FSU. So there's some buzz, there's some momentum. We covered all this stuff in the recruiting mill that you could really sense just being around these kids and listening to them and talking to them that there's a lot of excitement about FSU again. I mean, I did not hear this kind of stuff near the end of the year, obviously because it's the season, and now it's really picking up. And I think a lot of that's because of the new staff and kind of the new direction, the changes they've made, and stuff like that. But I think both of these camps are really good. I think the Lakeland camp was probably better from my perspective because of the depth and talent, but certainly a lot of talent and that we covered in the mill. People can read it. Go there right now, guys. You can read everything there. It's plenty of into detailed stuff that covers everything of what I'm hearing around the families of a lot of these kids. So I think obviously a productive weekend.
Yeah, if you're not a member of warchant.com, use the promo code WARCHANT30 for 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source. We got a lot of questions coming in here on YouTube, but before we get to some of those, Michael, Junior Day also came and went. Mm-hmm. I was out there for a little bit, nowhere near as long as you and intern Zane, right? That's his name?
Zane Williams.
Represent.
All right. Man, that guy was so clutch. Yeah. I mean, people don't know, like, majority of these things, because I had to leave at 4 o'clock. Aslan stepped up, helped me with the video, and then Zane was there the whole time I was there, or close to it, probably from around 11 a.m. to whenever Aslan and him left, probably around 8. He stayed to get all these quotes, these interviews. So make sure you get some love on the site, guys. He did a great job. Helped me out a lot. But yes, this was not a glamorous junior day. Right. There was a bunch of 3 stars. There was some 4 stars. There's some guys there. Obviously, running back T. Hodge is a 4-star. He was there. Haven't heard anything about an offer, but I've heard that's a guy they're going to push after. Trying to think off the top of my head. We already mentioned
Tofi from Pinellas Park down in Pinellas County, that running back.
Yeah, Lawrence Tufili. I don't even know how you say his last name.
You got it right.
I think they sit in a good spot with him. It seemed he really liked the visit, really liked the practices. He really, that's the thing. We don't hear a lot about Dante Pendleton, but it tells you a lot about what kids think about when they get out there, and they talked about the different drills that they did. Tufili touched on things that he hasn't seen anybody do that Coach Pendleton does and Coach Browse, and as we've heard all since these guys were hired, it's going fast. I mean, the offense is really fast. Kids are liking it. Kids are excited about what they're seeing. So we heard a lot of positive things from this camp. Bradley Ashmore, he's an offensive lineman. He's a guy that is very high on FSU. He's committed to Vanderbilt, but I could tell that's a guy that they're going to push for. Tate Johnson's a kid from Georgia. Watch that name, guys. He's going to be a guy that I think FSU has a very good shot at pulling him. I think they're the leader right now of FSU's already offered. He's certainly a very good prospect. And I know people are down because there was a good portion of 3 stars that were there. But overall, these are guys, I explained this on the board, these are guys that they evaluated. They really want to see in person. They know the elite guys are going to get there when you do the Seminole Showcase, when you do the spring game, when you do the first game of the year at home, those type of things. Kids are going to show up then. So I don't think they were so focused on getting every single 4 and 5 star to come to their junior day. Junior days are mainly for kids that have never seen FSU or kids that are so enriched in the program like Toafili that, they just want to spend time with the coaches and be around them. So I wouldn't read everything into these junior days. We saw a really good junior day when they had it in February. Lots of top talent. Everywhere. Not every junior is going to have every 5 star. So we're seeing that this weekend. Not to change gears, this weekend, offensive lineman Isaiah Walker's coming in. He's a 4-star. He's committed to South Carolina. That's not really a soft commitment, or that's not really a hard commitment. He's very soft on that commitment. I think it's going to be FSU UF battle. FSU is his dream school going up, so big chance for FSU there. And then the big news: 5-star Reggie Grimes is coming in, a linebacker coming in to see FSU. He's tight with Woody, so watch for FSU to make a big move there. And there's several other guys. We put the list on the site. So overall, I think it was a good feel as far as what came out of that junior day. I know everyone based success on junior days on commitments and high prospects coming in there. They had a 4-star, couple 4 stars as well in there. Defensive tackle Eric Taylor was there. And I'm drawing a blank on the linebacker, but maybe Aslan could look it up for me. I forget. I forget his first name, but
put me on the spot.
Anyway, yeah, Aslan can look that up for me for a second. But anyway, he had some good talent. Yes, it was not what they usually get for junior days, and yes, I don't think it's going to happen too frequently when you have that. But I think this is, like I said, these are one of these things where they weren't expecting a lot of 4 or 5 stars to show up. They were expecting guys that they evaluated at last year, and then they wanted to get them in the campus to get their foot in the door. So I think that way it was productive, and I think it was a pretty good one.
I'm going to try to find that linebacker out. We got some questions on YouTube, though, involving quarterback. What's the likelihood, Michael, that Jeff Sims earns a 5th star by the time this is all said and done? And also
5th star? Wow.
Well, that's what somebody's asking. I'm just telling you what the people are asking. And who seems to maybe be 1 or 2 names emerging as the second quarterback they likely will try to focus in and hone in on for this class?
Well, first of all, he's only a 3-star right now.
Come on, let's get all 5, man. Dream a little dream.
First thing you got to do is get to the 4-star range. I think he has the skill set to do that. I think the main thing, which was disappointing on the Lakeland camp, is that Jeff didn't go to that one, but he did the Nike camp earlier this year in Orlando. Was phenomenal. Heard a lot of great reports from that. Our main intern was Zane Williams was there. really raved about, his performance. Won the MVP. He's been very good at different camps. We just haven't seen him, so I'm hoping that he'll be at the Atlanta one. That way we can get a look at him. Very high skill set. I would say the chances of him getting a 4-star, I think, are pretty high. At some point. Now, I'm not promising it's going to happen in the next ranking, but I would say there's a chance he can get a 4-star ranking. Then you move up to the Rivals 100, 250 range. I think that's what your next goal should be, and a lot of that's just based on what Rivals sees when they get a chance to look at him during the season, and once that happens. So I would expect a massive jump until we start seeing some games from Jeff at Sandalwood, and once start playing, then we can kind of. I do know this, that Rob Cassie's already told me, one of his first visits, he wants to go see Jeff play at Sandalwood. So they're going to get a clear evaluation of him early on. So I think his jump will be probably middle of the year where you hear him start really making a move. Now, as far as another quarterback, there's not a set names or a bunch of set names. I mean, you got Malik Hornsby from Texas. He's a guy that's going to come to visit FSU. He's a guy they have connections with Browse and stuff like that. Then you have the guy that isn't mentioned as much. He's committed to West Virginia from Tallahassee Charles, Garrett Green. Very good quarterback. I watched him this weekend at Lakeland. He was very good. The hard-throwing guy. Baseball prospect, so that's kind of something you have to worry about with him. But committed to West Virginia, but I think that's a guy that I could see them pushing for as far as that second quarterback. So he's a name to watch. But I think more names will come when we get into the spring football and FSU gets more of a gauge of what they look and what they look for and what Kendall wants. So most of those names I think will come out in the spring or summer.
Was the linebacker you were thinking about, was it Desmond Tisdall?
No.
Say him. You already said his name.
No, his name is DeMoy. Last name is DeMoy.
Oh, DeMoy Kennedy.
Yeah, DeMoy Kennedy.
Got it.
There we go.
I won't let you down. I won't let you down.
Visited 4-star. He really liked it a lot. Had a good time with all the coaches, and I think he's a guy that I can see officially visiting FSU. Obviously, he's from the state of Alabama. I know, guys, that's like a fertile ground that they don't never get anybody, but he's a guy that seems to be genuinely interested. I asked some people around his recruitment that are close to him, and they told me he's very seriously considering, leaving the state of Alabama for college. So I think he's leaning heavily more towards not being in the state than being there. So I think LSU's the main competition. So I think they're a major factor. They're going to be a big factor down the road. But I always look at guys from Alabama as like how many. If you make 2 visits, you make multiple visits. He says he's coming back for the first game of the year when FSU plays at home, so we'll have to watch that and monitor that. But if that happens, then you have to consider him a major target.
We got a question from YouTube that also comes from our subscriber, Jawayne. I think he goes by Jawayne24 maybe on Word Champ, but he's got another alias.
From Virginia. Virginia.
Well, that's what he said. I hear a lot of Florida and Georgia talent, but don't sleep on the DMV. My boy Chris Tyree, who some say Florida State is not making a priority, which I don't believe. And then Antoine Sampa. We had somebody else also ask about Chris Tyree. I just pulled up his profile here on Rivals.com. 4-star all-purpose back out of Chester, Virginia, Thomas Dale High School. 5'10", 185. Lots of good offers. What do we know about that kid?
Chris Tyree, is that the guy you was asking about?
Yeah.
Okay, running back Chris Tyree, very electric. That is the only running back they're recruiting in the state of Virginia. That's the guy they want. They're very active with him. They want him. They're trying to get him down for a spring game, J.A. Wayne. I know they're working. They've been talking on the phone, so that's in the process. They're hoping to get that set up to get him over for the spring game and then set up an official visit. That's kind of the plan. Notre Dame is a team I hear a lot with him. Alabama as well. Probably more so Notre Dame is the major competition. Likes FSU a lot. Fits exactly what they want as far as very dynamic. This kid rushed for. I think he rushed for 100 yards almost like 8 straight games or something like that. Aslan, so very dynamic. Kind of exactly the guy that they like. But here's the thing too. It's a big year for running backs in all over the country. So there's a lot of guys, but I can tell you he is definitely a major target for him. And you mentioned linebacker Antoine Sampa. I think people already know that FSU's heavily there. I've already mentioned this as well, that he's taking a multiple-day visit for the spring game when he comes over to watch FSU. Linebacker, extremely tight with Raymond Woody. Raymond's done a really good job with this recruitment. he's a guy that he really is they're going to try to push to get him in the fold. And FSU Clemson battles from what I hear. But I hear FSU. I would give FSU a slight lead there as far as over Clemson, but he's a guy to really watch as far as we talk about momentum in elite guys, and Sampa can really solidify that momentum going into this season. He hasn't given me a set date as far as announcement, but it's going to be a big moment having him in here for 3 days and a multiple visit.
All right. He's Michael Langston. I'm Aslan Hajavani. This is a warchant.com recruiting chat. Use the promo code warchant30 for 30 free days of access to warchant.com. Pretty much everything, well, not everything, but a lot of what Michael's telling you is in nice readable form on the premium recruiting board. There's so much more that we're not going to be able to get to, and you can read all of that over on the premium recruiting board on warchant.com. Again, use the promo code warchant30 for more insight into Florida State athletics. Somebody was asking, I think his name was Chris Parker, maybe was his name, did I get his name right? Was basically asking, and it comes Justin Bailey, not even close, Aslan, asking Michael, will there be a big-time tight end in this class? And I know there's some new information that's come out about perhaps a prospect that might fit that bill from somewhere close to campus.
Yeah, there's two kids. They're kind of looking heavily at Sage Ennis. He's from Tallahassee Lincoln. I've watched this kid 4 or 5 times. They line him up at receiver. I mean, he basically plays a big receiver position for Lincoln, and he's got some wheels for a tight end. He can move. He's very, very athletic, great hands. That's what he does the best. His best 2 attributes are separation, the way he gets from the defender, but his ability to come down with just wild passes, great hands. So he's a guy. He visited for the junior day, and he also visited just recently for an FSU practice. He's going to be back again. He's going to be there pretty consistently. I think FSU just wants to see him in the spring, watch him move around, see if everything they see on tape is checking out to what they see, on film. And I think I've watched this kid. He's phenomenal. He can do a little bit of everything, and grades is not an issue for this kid. He's got Ivy League offers, so you don't have to worry about him. Another guy is Jeremiah Johnson. He's out there in Clinch County. It's where Tresman Marshall was from the last class. He's a guy to watch. Very 6'6", around, I forget his weight, but he's 6'6". Very, very, even more athletic than I would say Sage is. What he does well is high point, vertical leap. He kills teams in the side of the red zone. He's a guy that just gives you all kinds of problems as far as matchups. So both of them kind of matchup problems. I would say this: if FSU offers Jeremiah, I think there's a really good chance you'll see him in this class. I mean, FSU's where he wants to be. That's the preferred place he wants to be. He's got Ole Miss offers, Florida offer, but FSU is the school he's always loved and liked. And the main thing with Jeremiah is just the grades. He's got to finish the work, put himself in good position. I think if he gets in the position where FSU feels like, okay, we got a plan, you're going to make it, I think they'll offer him at that point. So that's kind of what we wait on there. Sage, I think they just want to see in the spring. So Sage's offer might come earlier, but I wouldn't lead that into believing that, one's better than one they like better than another. I think it's kind of a first come, first serve there.
Another question coming from Paul Fetzko. He had 2 questions, basically asking who the next commitment's going to be, if you could guess. Don't answer that one. You got to pay for that sort of stuff. But he does ask, how do you feel in terms of, is there a solid shot at Smalls and McKinley? I think obviously Savion Smalls, you mentioned him, but I don't know McKinley's first name, but hopefully you do.
Well, I mean, since he's visiting this weekend, I don't mind saying, the next guy I think is probably going to pop is Zane Herring. Just have a gut feeling. I don't know for a fact. Zane hasn't told me, hey, Mike, I'm coming in this weekend. I'm thinking about committing. It's just a gut feeling I have. He's been there so many times. I've heard he really hit it off with Clements, so he likes him a lot. That would not surprise me. He jumped on board. Just the amount of time he's bringing his entire family on this visit. So I think, I think that's something to watch, and I think that's a possibility that he jumps on board as far as the next guy. Now, the other question mentioned Savell Smalls. He's supposed to come over for the spring game. Very tight with Trayshawn Harrison. I think he really wants to watch Trayshawn to see how he does, and just what the comfort level is and the vibe he got. Because the first time he was here, I think it was last spring, he was really blown away just by the culture and everything. He's one of those kids, I think, if you go out there and you win 8 games, 8 or 9 games, he's a kid that they go from having a good shot with to a major shot with, because He already knows he likes the culture at FSU. Now he just wants to see just what they do on the field. But to answer that guy's question, yes, they have a solid shot. Who was the other name you mentioned, Aslan?
McKinley was the last name.
Okay, Mckinley Jackson is probably what he's talking
Okay.
about. Defensive tackle over there from Mississippi. He's also visiting for the spring game. FSU is very much in that top five. Guy that McKinley really likes is Odell Higgins. He's liked him for a while. He's visited already like 3 times in the last 2 years. So he's been a pretty active guy that has been on this campus. I think there's a great shot with him. I'm not going to say they're going to land him, but I would say that they'll have a great shot.
You've already kind of talked about defensive end. That's something that one of the first questions was, but we got somebody, I guess, late joining to the chat, Conrad Jones.
Okay.
Would you suspect that Florida State has identified their top defensive end prospect?
I would say they have a pretty good idea. Like I said, I wouldn't put just Josh Griffiths in that category. I know a lot of people will say defensive end, but he could end up at Buck and in the linebacker position. So I would keep that in mind. But I would say yes, they have identified most of their guys they want. Jervin Dexter is a guy that's committed to Florida. He's coming for the spring game. He's a guy they really like a lot. I think another guy is Chance Williams. I mentioned him. Savell Smalls. We've already covered him. So yes, the targets are pretty clear. I think most of the targets I covered in the original hot board. I think besides Dexter, I think for the most part they know who they're going to go after and who they're going to push for and who would you want better to recruit those guys than Odell? I mean, he's one of their best recruiters on the staff. It's going to be interesting to see the teaching stuff during the season because defensive ends is kind of a little bit of different skill set when it comes to defensive tackles. So be interesting to see how Odell handles that. But Odell's a veteran. He's been doing this a long time. So, it's going to be interesting to see, the different type of guys that they get in there and who they pull. But certainly to answer the question, yes, I think they do know their targets.
All right, we got a question regarding the offense, and it involves a 5-star running back, Kendall Milton, 6'1", 215-pound back out of Clovis, California, Buchanan High School. Is the recruitment with him over, Michael, in terms of Florida State's involvement?
What was the name again?
Kendall Milton. I mean, this kid's...
Kendall Milton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're involved with him. I think until he visits, I would say, long shot. Don't get your hopes up until I see something scheduled for a visit. He likes Willie Taggart. There's close connection, but yeah, that's about it.
Is the name I'm googling this name as we do live television, if you will. Will Anderson, weak side defensive end. Does that name ring a bell?
Yeah, he's from Georgia. He's from the same school as Kayvon Glenn that we covered, linebacker. Yeah. Very good. So, he's a guy that they're very high on. I think he's a guy that they have a very good shot with and good chance of pulling. But I think the main thing is continually to get him on campus. We know Kayvon's going to have a big impact with him, but now we have to see them making that next step. I think William wants to see the on-the-field product. He likes Odell a lot. He knows what he does. He's been to FSU's campus enough where they're very aware of what he does. But I think the main thing is seeing the product on the field. But I think FSU leads right now. I mean, I have a feeling just the vibe that I get that FSU is the team that he likes the best.
All right. Let's keep it on the offense. Let's go to, are they considered the Space Coast?
Yes.
Cocoa Beach, is that considered the Space Coast?
Yeah, Space Coast area.
Keziah Holmes, athlete, 5'11", 166.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, I love that kid.
Yeah? Talk a little bit about him.
I love that kid. He is my favorite, and there's a lot of great running backs. But he's the guy, I think, when you talk about fit for the Briles system, you watch Briles' offenses, he's the guy that you want in there. He's electrifyingly fast. I mean, this kid can fly, but also he's very elusive. He can make people miss. A playmaker in every sense of the word. Great hands out of the backfield. He's a kid I love. There's a lot of talented backs, but he's the one that's probably my favorite if I had to pick one, just because of the fit he has in the system. FSU Miami battle. I think a lot of this is kind of referring back to what you said about the season. If you just go in there and you get some momentum going in the season, playing good, looking good, play with a lot of excitement, I think FSU is going to have a really good chance. And it also would help, which I think his teammate is Richie Leonard, offensive lineman, visited FSU several times. I think FSU is likely going to pull that kid. That probably is going to have an effect on him as well. So that would probably help. But Holmes, I love a lot for the question. Great question. I love that kid. I think he's a big time prospect. I think Miami FSU battle might lead slightly towards Miami, but it's close. It's close.
DeJuan Edwards, Colquitt County, Moultrie, Georgia. 4-star running back, 5'11", 205. 50% they got Georgia right now on the fan Futurecast on Rivals.com. Well, he looks pretty impressive, man. What do you know about that guy?
Yeah, I watched Dejon a lot last year. He split time with Ty Leggett. Ty Leggett over there at Colquitt had the best probably 1-2 punch in the country. Very physical runner, big back, kind of a little more elusive than he's big like Jacquez Packer or kind of around that coming out of high school, but he's more elusive than Jacquez was, and very good runner between the tackles. Like him a lot. He has told me that he's probably coming over for the spring game, but I'm waiting to see and make sure FSU side confirms that before I put him on the list. But he's certainly a guy they like. They've already offered him. They like him a lot. But we'll say this a lot, that it's a loaded year at running back, guys. So I think FSU is in this top 5 of schools. You mentioned Georgia. That's a team that's in there. Auburn is also in there. So he's a guy that need to get on campus a few times. I think they do that. Kind of will be like that Kamar Bell situation where, FSU just has to keep getting him on campus. And obviously the season's going to be big because he's big on, product on the field. So I think that's going to be a big part of his recruitment.
With Cam most likely leaving for the NFL after this season, we still don't know how Kalen's going to look after that knee injury. I mean, we've seen him out there a little bit during the open practices, and he looks like he's coming along pretty well. How many running backs do you think Florida State wants to sign? Maybe like a range, like 2 to 3, or even more than that, or would they be fine with just one?
I don't think it'd be more than two or three. I think 2 or 3 would be a good number. I mean, I think it'll definitely be at least 2 because, it's too good of a year not to get 2 backs. They didn't take anybody last year. So you need to, develop as much as you can. You mentioned possibly losing Cam, so, you need to have plenty of guys that, and it's such to fit your system, but it's such a good year at running back that you have to, I think what you'll see them do is, if they could possibly pull off a Holmes, you get him, but then you get a different type of back, it's more physical and maybe has a different skill set than what, Holmes brings or whatever athletic guy. So I think 2 or 3.
Another question here from YouTube. Lyric Gaddis asking, with the quarterbacks that we have brought in, is Travis Jay now safe to play his recruited position?
Somebody DM'd me that today, just asking that question. I don't think he's safe yet because we have to wait on Jordan Travis, see what happens with that waiver. I've heard, my people I've talked to, they think it's likely going to happen. Thinking he's going to get that waiver. If he gets that waiver, I would say it's unlikely that Travis Jay will probably spend a lot of time there. I think a lot of it was just having necessity and make sure you have scholarship guys that can count on. Plus, I think Browse really likes him at quarterback, but I'd say they'll probably back off that stance a little bit once, if it falls into place what we think. Obviously, you got Hornibrook coming in June. And then you already have James Blackman, and then if you get Travis as a scholarship guy, or Jordan Travis, that is, that makes it less of a necessity to push for Travis to play quarterback. So I think he'll probably spend more time with the DBs and be focused mostly on DBs. So I think a lot of it depends on what happens with Jordan Travis.
Got another question about staying on the offensive side of the ball. Bryce Gowdy, whether or not he's going to be a slot guy. I mean, he measures in at 6'2", 190 on his Rivals.com profile. He's from Deerfield Beach. Yeah. Is that a guy you think, is he an outside guy or is he a slot prospect?
I see him more of an outside guy when I've watched him. He was at the Miami camp, very good, did a good job. I'm glad all these people are bringing up names from different camps because I didn't remember all of them. So No, Bryce is a solid talent. He's going to visit Florida soon. I think he's going to visit Auburn as well. Um, I think he's more of an outside guy as far as you're looking, but he falls in that category of you have certain guys that are definite takes, like we know Rosemy, who I've covered earlier, Marcus Rosemy. He's definitely a take. I think Brian Robinson's definitely a take. He's currently a Miami commit, but he's got close ties with Dugans. I think Redding's probably a definite take too. So, and they're probably going to take between 2 to 4 that position. So they're going to be selective about guys like Bryce Gowdy. I think if they want Bryce Gowdy, they can get Bryce Gowdy. I think it's just a matter of they're going to have to make a decision on that this spring because I'm sure Gowdy's going to go visit a lot of other places and they might be ready to take it. So he needs to be, very sure that one, FSU's the place, and then two, we have to find out for sure if he was a sure take because I don't really know that at this point.
Shout out to Paul Fetzko. He was the guy that asked about who's going to be the next person to commit, and I was like, simmer down. We're not going to give away all this information for free. Paul informs me that he is a member. He's been a member for years. Ryan Knowles 4 is his scream name. His grandfather, Ralph Chaudron, was on the first team at Florida State in '47, and he's actually in the Hall of Fame. So,
See?
Shout out. Look at that, man. What do you know?
Boom.
Roy Moss asks, what's up with Rector? I mean, take that for what it's worth. Wyatt Rector, the quarterback from Western Michigan, I guess, most recently.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's nothing up. He's transferring to FSU, and that's he's coming from Western Michigan. And I've watched this kid a lot when he's from Jacksonville, so I've seen him a lot. He's been to the FSU camp, I think, 2 years, so I saw a lot of him. Very, very good wheels. He can move. Very good, lively arm. I think a guy that's going to fit pretty well in the system. Now, he's going to take a few years to adjust to the FSU system because the speed is going to be much higher than nothing against the Western Michigan program, but the athletes he's going against are it's going to be adjustment period to adjust to that kind of speed. So there is no update as far as his waiver. He's also waiting for a waiver. There is no update on that. The plan is for him to walk on right now, and then if he gets a waiver from the NCAA, then he will be eligible this year, just like Jordan Travis. But there's no update there. But certainly a guy that I've watched a lot that I think will fit that system as far as what Browse wants.
We should probably confer and conference with FSU 91 on this. Next question comes from Keeson06. How many offensive lineman recruits, Michael, do you project Florida State to take in this 2020 class?
I would say it's going to be back to that 4 or 5 range, what they would like. I think they would like 4 or 5 in this class. I think that's why I think they would like to get somebody like Zane Herring this weekend. That's big for them to get the ball rolling. Zane's a very popular recruit around national guys, too. Super nice kid, very good personality, guy that kids like a lot. So I think they kind of want to get that ball rolling with him, and then kind of hopefully that leads into other guys that they could pull. But I would say 4 or 5.
All right, Michael. That's about all the questions that we have. What is next on the calendar for you, man? I guess maybe give us a little sneak of what's to come this weekend for Florida State.
Well, I mean, we mentioned the kind of 6 or 7 guys that are coming in this weekend. Keontae Jenkins, defensive back's coming in. Defensive back Nate Evans is coming. They're both from Virginia. I think FSU's offered both of those kids. Keontae is actually the brother of Levante Taylor. So he's a guy that knows the FSU program well. Already mentioned the linebacker Reggie Grimes, very talented guy. They want to make a big impression there. That's really big. And then Isaiah Walker, it doesn't get any bigger than that. He's offensive tackle. That's like godsend when it comes to FSU fans that hearing. So I think I'm going to be there at Moore Athletic Center all weekend or all Saturday, waiting to get in touch with these guys and talk to them and see where things stand. We'll see if Herring jumps on board. I'll also be there because of that. So that's what I'll be working on. And then probably right after, after the spring game, or maybe just before it, I'm going to do another hot board. So we'll have an extensive hot board, offense and defense. I'll cover a lot of things since there's new offers. Since there's been so many new offers the last 3 weeks, so I'll cover a lot of that. And then, but mainly there'll be a new hot board coming, and And certainly we'll have a lot more features. And then on April 19th, write this down, guys, because I'll be in Georgia, in Atlanta. I'll be covering the Rivals three-strike camp for in Atlanta. Don't know where it's going to be located. Maybe I'll get lucky and be inside the big place. The
Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Put you right on the 50-yard line.
There you go. So hopefully, might be there. I don't know, but I'll be there for that camp. We know FSU's hitting Georgia hard, so it's going to be a lot of good prospects there on April 19th. Apparently, they don't care about my weekend since they're holding it on a Friday. So, we'll do that. But that's kind of the plans of stuff we have coming up. Spring game coverage, we'll kill it. There's going to be tons of stuff. It's going to be a great list of prospects. I've already put the list on War Chant. There's going to be more added to that, so we'll have some serious in-depth coverage as far as the spring game, then the Rivals camp, and then the time me and Aslan love. Spring tour.
Come on. Lay out the map, man. Lay out the map. Excited to see what.
So I got to work on a map so I don't get Aslan lost when we go somewhere, or, make sure we plan everything out. But hopefully do better than last year with the guys that actually signed with FSU we went to see. So, but that's kind of our, kind of a plan going forward as for what we got coming up.
All right, Michael. Appreciate it, man. If you need help Saturday, give me a shout. I should be around. I can help out for a little bit. Just a little bit. Don't work me too hard, man.
Don't work you.
He's Michael Langston. I'm Aslan Hajavani. Thanks so much for watching this week's Recruiting Chat. Again, if you're not a member of warchant.com, you're missing out on so much. This was like 50 minutes of information that Michael has, and he's got so much more. It's all over on the premium recruiting board. Use the promo code WARCHANT30, 30 free days of access. Try it. You'll like it. You won't leave. Michael, thanks for your time. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll catch up with y'all later.
You got it, man.